Hey guys, welcome to Brotherhood Forged.
I'm Joey, and hanging with me is my buddy Paul.
We're just two normal guys following Jesus and trying to lead our families well.
We started this to build a place for real talk, real growth, and real brotherhood.
If you're about faith, leadership, and showing up when it's tough, you're in the right spot. If you like what you hear, hit the share button or leave a review. It helps way more than you know.
Let's get into it.
Welcome back. We're at episode 13 here. We're building off the brief that we had on Monday where we started to get into Joey's story a little bit. And I got to say, it was really hard for me not to go all the way in because I've known you for going on 3 years now. So it's like, as we get into this, as I think about this, one of the feedbacks earlier on that Amber gave me is she's like, I'm really nosy. So when you guys talk about things, sometimes you don't go as far into detail as I like because she's kind of into the reality shows and stuff. So she wants us to get really far into the detail and stuff. But sometimes it doesn't apply for it, right? This one's there. So we're going to go deeper into this one. We kind of set the stage for it Monday, maybe left people on the edge of their seats like, wait, what are you guys talking about? Because sometimes I think, too, we know each other so well, so we may start talking about something and leave out point A, B, and C that got us to this point. So we'll fill in some gaps today and really go further into this. So I'm excited to pass the mic back over to you, man.
Yeah, it'd be very easy for us to do that, like you said, because we know each other so well. And you know details about my life that obviously most people don't. So today you're going to get to know a lot more details about me. Some of them are pretty ugly, some not so ugly, but it's all just real truth. So we're going to dive deep, but start off like we always do with some scripture and some reflection from Paul and I. And I think for today, the 2 Corinthians 5:17 is very appropriate. It's therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old is gone, the new is here. This couldn't be more appropriate for the journey I've been on. This one, it's real personal for me. It reminds me, thankfully, that I'm not the man I used to be. I'm not chasing those selfish desires for the most part. No, we're not perfect, right? So we're not saying that. No longer am I buried in shame. I still have some shame, but not near as much. And the pride is gone. That's one of my daily prayers, to never be proud, to never be prideful. I mean, you can be proud of things, but full of pride is not a good thing. And the reason I'm here is not because I earned it. It's really because of Jesus. It's that simple.
Man, you said something there that reminded me of one of Jelly Roll's songs where he talked about, I hate the man I used to be, but he'll always be a part of me. And how true is that, especially for this stuff, because we're not the same people that we used to be. And there's parts of my past that I don't ever want to be that person again, right? I think a lot of us can say the same thing, but we always have to understand that that's still a part of us. It still helped us get to the point we're at now. Obviously, if we use it the right way, I think this verse is great because it talks about, like, my reflection from this is you're drawing the line in the sand. You're no longer being the person you used to be because you're with Christ now. And God's not, he's not patching you. He's creating you in a new. So it's like your past does not have to define you. You get to determine where that goes based off the new relationship that you have. And you still use that past to help build you and motivate you in places you need to improve on, rather than let your mindset say, this will always be who I am, and go into that fixed mindset. Not to bring up mindset again, but it's just so big.
We're going to bring up mindset all the time.
A lot.
And in the past, you just talked about, we're not only going to learn from it, we did learn from it, but we're going to teach a lot of other people from our mistakes. If we can use it in a positive light, past isn't so bad. And like you said, it's part of who we were, and it's helped guide us and direct us into the man we are today. So yeah, it hurt at the time, but like anything else, pressure makes us stronger. Mistakes make us stronger if we allow them to.
All those labels, the mistakes, the guilt that you talk about, like, yeah, it's still part of it, but it really comes down to how you define it. Like I said, you define if that's going to be who you are the rest of your life, or you define if this is that line in the sand. I'm never going to be this person again based off these things, but I will use these things to help the next person. So like you're talking about there, it's turning it into a purpose. It's not allowing those things to hold you back anymore. It's allowing you to bring yourself forward and call people forward with you based off those things too. So I guess one thing I think about with this is, are you still living like the old you when God already made you a new person? To the listeners, as you go through and think through this, there's times where I have to remind myself the same thing. When I slip back into old tendencies, am I still defining myself off the old me, Or am I defining myself in the new light that God sees me in?
There's still scars, right? And there's still gonna be struggles, but we don't carry them with the same weight anymore.
Mhm.
And like you said, because of Jesus, because he makes us new through the pain, through his surrender, and through God's grace. I'm gonna start us off like normal with the prayer, and then we'll just jump in because we got a lot to talk about today. All right. Father God, thank you for second chances. I thank you, God, for your mercy, for redemption, and for never, ever giving up on us. I lift up every man listening who feels unworthy, ashamed, or too far gone. Remind each person that your grace is greater. Speak to their hearts. Let them know they're not alone. You still have a purpose for their lives. Lord, I ask you continue to use my story not for my name, but for yours. Use it to bring hope, to stir hearts, and to draw people closer to you. May every word point back to the goodness and glory of Jesus. It's in his name I pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, man. Mike's hot coming your way. We talked about how the battle, you saw it as an opportunity and it shaped you, but do you want to tell people a little bit before that? What were you like before that turning point in your life?
Okay, so I would guess we could call this before the battle. So before the cancer battle. So there's a lot, but I'm going to try to keep this fairly brief, but enough to paint a picture. So I grew up with two brothers from my dad's first marriage, but they weren't in the household. Then I had with my dad and my mom. My mom had three kids from her first marriage, so I grew up with two sisters and a brother. We grew up in I'd say it's a non-Christian home. I think it's hard to remember back. We went to church maybe here and there, but not on a regular basis. I don't ever remember my parents praying or talking about God or Jesus or anything like that. Parents went through a divorce when I was in 3rd grade, and that was pretty tough on me. But one thing that was a constant in my life was a grandmother who did take us to church when she could, and she was a big part of where I'm at today. There's a song called Somebody Prayed, and it's about people praying for you. That just came to mind as we're talking here. And my grandma was that person. I think she prayed for me and probably until the day she died. And I look at all the circumstances, all the things I've been through, and I am digressing a little bit. I'm getting a little off topic, but yeah. Grandma Carrie, she was the spiritual role model for our family. So my parents' divorce was really tough on us. We went to live with my mom. 3rd grade, my dad went a separate way. So that would have been my mom's second marriage. And you're going to laugh when the reason I'm saying this, because they were each married 5 times. It was my dad's 3rd marriage. So I never had any siblings that my mom and dad had together other than me, right? So no brothers and sisters that weren't from other marriages. Early in life, I think when you kind of think of where things might have started going wrong, I can remember being introduced to pornography probably in 4th grade. And oddly enough, it was topless. I still remember this. It was a calendar of topless women given to me by my mom's husband at the time. I think I was in 4th grade. And at the time, I thought, hey, I'm the cool kid. I had a topless Playboy calendar on my wall in 4th grade. Now I look back and I'm like, oh, that was so messed up. But that's just where I kind of, if I go back, I think, that's when things might have started to go a little left of center. And I think that also might have be part of where I started to become a little emotionally scarred and search for, approval and love and that kind of, you look back at things and you're like, it kind of makes sense now.
Well, as you said that, man, I was literally thinking about the male influences and male role models and how big of a task that is. And when you have that wrong one in your life that introduces you to something like that at that age, that, like you said, it sets you up for that different kind of course, and then you're probably going through a negative feedback loop where you're trying to find approval and attention in the wrong way because now you have this thing that you never should have been exposed to at that age. And I think that's just a huge, I don't know, turning point, I would say. And I mean, obviously the blended family, like you said. So you're your only full sibling. Is that what you said? Your mom and
Yeah.
dad? Okay.
So I called them obviously my brothers and sisters. I lost my one brother. They're still brothers and sisters to me, but
Sure.
they didn't share the same mother and father. And I
Yeah.
also had two brothers from my dad's first marriage that not as close to. We just didn't grow up together. They're still
Well,
my brothers.
one thing about that too, man, I mean, had anyone looked at you differently because you were the stepbrother or the half brother or whatever like that, that could really set you up to really for attention seeking and approval in that way too. So my last point I want to make real quick before I get back to your
Yeah.
story is because this is you.
No.
I love that you brought up your grandmother because as you were talking about your grandmother, I literally thought of my grandma Bengal and even her neighbor who's still around. My grandma passed away, but she was the lady that's the same way. She's if you had something going on, she's like, I'll add you to my prayer list. And she literally would. She had a list at one point of like 30 people and she would pray over all of them. So the people like that in her life, I think we got to give them that special attention and shout them out because it's truly beautiful.
Yes, she outlived both my parents. She made it to 101.
Dang,
Grandma Carrie was the rock of the family,
that's incredible,
100%.
man.
Yeah. And I never felt like a stepbrother or a half brother. That's one thing I can say about my siblings. We're siblings, right? We're brothers and sisters.
That's I don't have any experience with it, but I think that's truly the best way to do it, man. Obviously, as someone with no experience on it, you make people feel included, and people never forget how you make them feel. But back to your story. So we're talking about the potential influences that you had, the where you were at with the blended family, how things could have started to turn for you, and it's a really pivotal time. So
Right.
as you're at this was fourth grade, and then we did talk
Mhm.
before about your high school. So do you think the high school struggles, all that kind of stuff, when does that blend into this part?
Yeah, that's up to 4th grade. Lived with my mom until, I'm thinking back now, 5th grade. Well,
Mhm.
mom ended up moving to another state. She married another gentleman, and so I moved. That's when I moved in with my dad, which we had talked about in another episode. I was really insecure in high school. I just felt rejected, and I look back and I wonder, a lot of these things we just bury emotionally, but
Mhm.
I think some of that rejection came from, and this is in no way dogging my mom. She did what she had to do, but I think between the divorce and then her, moving out of state, you're always, we all want that sense of belonging. We all have that sense of wanting to feel love. But I think that did help foster some of those insecurities in me. And the reason I was so bashful and so shy and had so little confidence. Obviously, you know me now, I've overcome those things. But I think that all those things contributed to that.
You said something right there, not to segue us too much, but you're right. As males, particularly, we do tend to bury our emotions too much. And I think that it's really hard to look back on times when it could have led us to those moments where, like you said, all the things that you went through in life that led you to be bashful, led you to be shy. And then in no way would you dog your mom. It's one of those things where we
Oh,
all it's just the truth, right? There's going to be people that have perceptions of us or feelings from us that we had a different experience with them where they felt a different type of way. And that might never been the intention. I'm sure your mom never wanted you to feel any type of way from what you went through, but that's just the truth, right? It's just, it's your perception of it. And we can't ever hold that against people, unfairly because it is their perception of it. And it's the feelings they have of it. So I do one question off topic when you were going through all this stuff, talking about shy or kind of timid, because I can definitely relate to that. I'll talk about that in my story. When is the first time that you felt fully accepted for who you are? This is putting you completely on the spot.
yeah, that has put me on the spot. My wife, she's always accepted me for whoever I am, for who I am. I'd say my dad did too as a child. My dad was, and I've spoke about him a little bit before.
Mhm.
My dad loved me so unconditionally. Like, I told you, but the way he supported me in sports, even though I was a terrible athlete.
All state wrestler.
But yeah, but as I got older in life, it was definitely my wife. Definitely. She's been my rock, and I've not always been the best guy. She has always believed in me. She's always stood by me, whether I was heavy at the time or out of shape or, no matter how I cut my hair or whatever, and those that know me know look different almost every week. Sometimes I'll have a beard, sometimes I'll have short hair. Sometimes it's shaved, but 100% my wife.
I could literally put myself in your shoes as you're talking about that because there's stuff that I'll talk about in my story too that led me the same path. But it's beautiful though to really feel that acceptance and that support and that love. And you're right about the beard and stuff because you sent me a picture. You may have regretted it. I might not have saved it though. You had like mutton chops, dude. It was like a
Yes, it was
big old
bad.
handlebar mustache. Like,
I still have that picture somewhere. I'm not ashamed. Oops. Yeah. That was, the mutton chops were probably one of the worst looks, if not the worst look I ever went with. That was a 2-day look, and I was like, "No, we gotta get rid of that."
okay. All right, so that was a 2-day look. Did Bobbie still love you and accept you for who you were for 2 days, or is it one of those things where she was like, "Come back and talk to me," and you shave that thing off your face?
She was not a fan, but she still loved me.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's definitely looks she doesn't like when I shave my head completely bald with a razor. She hates it. She'll let me know she hates it, but she still loves me. The last time I did it, she didn't say a word, so I kept it for a month, and then I was like, "Well, she's not gonna complain, I might as well grow my hair back." I even told her that, so, yeah.
she just subtly buys you more hats to cover it up.
Hey.
That's funny. No, Amber actually won't let me shave my beard all the way off because I have a big baby face. Like I would look like I'm back in high school again.
56 almost next month, but it's close with a baby face with wrinkles and eye bags, but what are you gonna do?
Wear it proudly, man. All right, so we tend to get off topic. I'll bring us back here. We talked about Bobbie last time a little bit, and what episode was that? When we talked about our a painful thing that helped shape us, I believe. You talked about how you met, but do you want to give us some more detail and kind of backstory on how you guys met, where you guys were kind of at, and what was Joey like when Joey met Bobbie?
So we met in college, freshman year, but we were friends for quite some time. In the way I don't know if I mentioned how we actually met. We met in class or whatever. Um, I was the campus DJ at the time. We had a common area where you could sit and play cards and eat and stuff. It was called the Commons, and the DJ booth was it only played on campus, right? So it wasn't like over the air. Anyways, we actually played vinyl records back then too. So we were spinning vinyl and I was signing off or whatever, and she liked my voice but didn't know it was me. And she'd already known me a little bit. And then I come out of the booth and she's like, "Ooh, that voice was sexy." And like, okay, there ain't nothing sexy about this guy. But anyways, still we were friends for a long time. We used to talk on the phone in college for hours, 2, 3 in the morning. It was nothing for us to before we even dated. Then we started dating, and one thing led to another. We dated all the way through college. One little hiccup there, but besides that one hiccup, that's pretty normal. We got engaged my senior year. I proposed to her at a restaurant called the Alexander House, which I also worked at, over a bottle of wine, and got married the August after college. So a year and a month after college, August of 92, August 14. Yeah. August of 92. Yeah, Bobbie, that was it. Because we graduated in 91. So a year later. Here we are.
DJ Joey, I love it.
Yeah. I wish I would have stuck with that, but it didn't pay well.
Well, now there's a lot more advancements in technology where you could still get that subtle, smooth DJ voice out there in ways that do pay better.
We're exploring avenues, let's just say. We'll see
Yep.
what happens. And we'll see what happens.
I love it, man. What was your faith like back then?
Lukewarm at best. I mean, I believed in God. Guess what? The demons believe. Satan believes. A lot of people say, "Yeah, I believe in God. I'm going to heaven." Well, I'm not here to give that debate. But I believed in God, but I was not living a life. I lived a life of pleasing myself. I wasn't concerned with living for anyone else. Of course, I love Bobbie, love my family, but I was all about me. So I can't say there were no fruits in my faith at that point or for a long time.
We talked about that a little bit earlier too, and even on the last episode where it's two different things, right? To say you believe in God and actually walk that walk or walk through doors that he opens for you and trust and all these things. So you're right, man. I think there's a lot of us at times, depending on how life is, we can fall back into that where it's like, yeah, I'm good. I still believe in God. But it's like, do you? Do you pray? Do you live it out? Do you treat people the way you should treat people? Do you treat yourself the way you should treat yourself too in a godly way? And it can be very challenging at times. So I appreciate you sharing that. I think the listeners will as well. When you guys look at the early stages of marriage, with you talking about and describing yourself the way you just did, what did early marriage look like for you guys?
Early marriage was tough. So just the job thing, she supported us for probably a couple of years. Not that I laid on my butt, but I went from bartender to back to food serving, which is what I did through college. Drove a Schwann truck. I don't know if you're familiar with Schwann's. Yeah, I was a Schwann man for about 6 months. That was a terrible job. I sold insurance for 3 months and made one sale. One sale.
One more than I sold, so there you
Sale.
go, man.
Yeah, that was a job you actually kind of had to be dishonest to old people. I couldn't do it. I
Mhm.
couldn't sell someone something they didn't need. So even way back then, the tactics they wanted us to use, I could not bring myself to do. So then I got into restaurant management. It paid pretty good. And I did that for 4 or 5 years, actually more than that. And I climbed the ladder pretty quick, worked for a few different restaurants. That was rough on a marriage, though. Working late hours, the lifestyle in the restaurant business is not that conducive to a strong marriage. And then
Mhm.
you bring a kid into it when Alex was born, even tougher. One of the restaurants I worked for, I'm not going to mention which one it was, but I was working 18-hour days. I was sleeping in my car some nights because I had to drive quite a bit. Very rough on a marriage. I was all about me. Yet she still with me to this day. Is not the best husband. Very selfish. And I look back and I can't change that as we talk about, but I can be a lot better husband now. I can
Mhm.
help guys through a lot of situations that I could have avoided had I known those things. So marriage was rough.
And, like, you just talk about the lessons that you've learned, man. You can help hopefully lead people in different directions so they don't have to experience those same lessons that you did, going through that as well. And I used to in college and a little bit after college work at bars and restaurants too, man. So I get it that lifestyle. It's different, right? And I still have friends that do that, and I give them a ton of credit because I'm yawning at 9 o'clock, man. So I can't even imagine
Oh,
having to go do a shift that goes till 2 in the morning. Still, it's like
no chance now.
it's not in me anymore, man. So what you brought up, Alex. So I got out of all that stuff before I had kids. I'm pretty lucky to say that I had a regular, I guess, quote unquote, regular 9 to 5 at that point, or 8 to 5, whatever, before I had children. But what was that like? How did becoming a father really change things for you and really, I don't know, course correct maybe?
I was still in the first year and a half, 2 years, I was still in the restaurant business. It was tough. And, you have that first kid, you don't know what you're doing. Thank goodness for my mother in law who helped us watch him, during when we worked and things like that and kind of helped raise him. She's still around and she was a huge part of our life. But yeah, dude, I didn't know what I was doing. And then I'm working these crazy hours and Bobbie's also working. But I did find a lot of joy in being his dad. I mean, that I still find joy. He's 29 years old, going to be 30 next year, obviously, 29, yeah. But brought a lot of joy and taught me patience. Not saying I was always patient. You talk about pressure, though, being a parent, not knowing what you're doing. We married those that many times, so I wouldn't say I had the best example. And that was a fear as a parent is because what I had seen would be things go wrong, you just quit. I wanted to break that curse.
Are there things that you would go back specifically that jumps out to you that you do differently if you were parenting all over again, or what are some things that you potentially tell your younger self in this moment now, knowing everything that you know?
The first one's really easy. Keep God first in your marriage and in your life. I let that slip away. I was even first probably before my son and wife at times. I put myself even above Alex. Of course, you should always put God, your wife, and then your children. So I had those priorities all mixed up. Certainly, I figured that out, but that would be huge. Be patient. I remember times when I was helping him with homework and that kind of thing, and I would lose my patience because he wasn't getting it, or he was on the soccer field and I didn't think he was trying hard enough. I look back, I was a butthole, man. Sometimes I did learn my lesson. My wife was always kept on me about that. But I look back at some things and I'm very embarrassed of how I acted. But sticks out to me, and I still it hurts me the way I would get on him when he would struggle with homework or things like that. And I understood it, and I just thought he should understand it.
Mhm.
So many skills I didn't have back then that I have now, and I would give anything to go backwards and have those. but I can't. But putting God first, easy, would be number one.
You talk about the patience thing too, man. It's like we've talked to many guys about this thing. It's like we can't pray for patience without understanding the opportunities that we have to actually get better at them. So it's looking at the situations that we have, like the homework table, because I know that one all too near and dear because we went through it all last year and the year before. Listen, third grade math is different nowadays. I'm just gonna say that. So like the way they get it, I understand now why they do it, but I first had to like rewire my brain to be like, wait, why are we doing it this way? Why don't we do it this way? So there was a lot of patience and I would say
Mm,
opportunities to utilize patience. And it wasn't always the best way on my part or on Amber's part. She'll admit that too. But we just keep getting better at it. It's one of those things where we can't say, I want to be more patient without understanding that God's given you the opportunity to do it. Now it's actually walking through that door too. So I'm glad you brought that up, man.
yeah,
Well, that was before the battle, right? Let's hop into the battle, man. I mean, I can only imagine. Obviously, this is where Amber works, so she's got more experience with the phone calls and the
sure.
different parts of this process than I do. What
Right.
was that like when you first found out?
When I first found out it was 2009, the springtime of 2009, I had just started refereeing soccer as a side gig because we weren't making a lot of money then. We needed a little extra money, so I started doing that. And I had been working out. I noticed a lump in my arm, and I'm thinking, just pulled something or whatever. Long story short, I ended up going to several doctors and ended up going to a specialist. He makes an appointment with me at the local cancer center. So when you get that phone call and said, hey, you need to go
Ooh,
talk to these people. So he didn't actually say you have cancer. So I remember one day sitting down and they're like, yeah, you have. My first diagnosis was desmoid tumors. It's a type of cancer. This is the first go around. Yeah, you hear that and your whole world just stops. You hear that diagnosis. And some people obviously will have brain cancer, different things that could be a lot scarier. Mine was actually in my right arm, oddly enough. And everyone says, how do you get cancer in your arm? Couldn't tell you, but I did. So over the next year and a half, I go through 4 surgeries, different surgeons, and 30 or so rounds of radiation, and then cancer was gone. So I had some damage, but it was minor where they'd taken the tumors out over and over again. They just kept coming back and then did the radiation. So
mhm.
I'm good. So that really wasn't a terrible time because the surgeries just never seemed, I wasn't worried about losing my life or anything at that point. And really, even losing my arm wasn't even a scare because they always thought they had it under control. Fast forward to 2019, when I'm typically, if you make it 9, 10 years, you're out of the woods. Well, I noticed I had another lump in my arm, and I still saw my oncologist every year. Go to the doctor. This is when they're like, okay, you have different type of cancer. There's osteosarcoma this time. And the reality is that if this is what they think it is, I'm likely to lose my arm. End up getting the surgery in November, go through 3 surgeries over the 10-day period because they kept getting these mixed results. And I'm jumping ahead without letting you talk too much here. They put a wound vac on me. I come back twice. They keep getting these negative results, and the doctor just can't understand why.
I was gonna say, how are you feeling that moment, man?
Well, it was over that 10-day period with the 3 different surgeries, I was actually frustrated. I felt like they were dragging me along, and I was still going to lose my arm. And after the second surgery, I come out of it, and they're like, at that point, they still don't know what they're going to do. I actually got mad at the doctor. My wife's like, you're an idiot. I'm like, why aren't you just cutting this arm off so I can move forward with my life? Because the emotional drain on coming out, so the first time I come out, I think I'm not gonna have my arm. We still don't know that for sure, right? But the first surgery of those 3, I planned to wake up without an arm. I was there. I was okay. I mean,
Mhm.
as okay as you can be.
Sure.
Second time I go back, which is a few days later, that was, I don't know, 5 days after the initial one, and they put a wound back on me again, sent me home again, and I'm like, "This is crazy. You're just dragging me along." The doctor to this day can't explain why the cancer was literally dead in my arm. They took the tumor out. I've told you, my arm's damaged. I don't have a tricep rear deltoid, but I do have my arm
Yeah.
that functions. And they said my arm wouldn't function even if I got to keep it. Everything they said is false. Now, certainly, I can focus on what I can't do with this arm, but I don't focus on what I can do.
That was the part that really, when I heard you telling this on Larry's podcast of how you mentally were so prepared that like, all right, I just have to accept life how it's gonna be coming out of this because I'm just gonna lose my arm. And then to hear you talk about the frustration of like, dude, just take it. I'm just so done with this, right? Because a 10-year period, already exhausting enough in that time frame from the first time to the second time, roughly 10 years. And then a 10-day period where you're going through all this and you're just mentally preparing yourself for the worst outcome. And then to feel like you're just being dragged along, like, I can't even imagine, dude. And then to get to the point where they're like, "Oh, hey, just kidding. Here's your arm still." I mean, parts of you are obviously they had to do certain things there, but it's like the emotional roller coaster that you were taking through over that period. Like, I don't know. I mean, like the diagnosis itself, like, right? Some things you just can't explain, and obviously your doctor can't explain it. So it's just the faith. I think really the faith that the emotional roller coaster leading you through that ends with you getting off that ride and there's your calling. There's God. There's the comfort of knowing like that's the only way you can get through something like that.
Oh, without my faith, there's no way I could have gotten through that the way I did. To be at total peace, and a lot of people think I'm crazy and they don't believe me. And that's okay. I know deep in my heart I was at peace. And I told God, well, like we make deals with God, like he really cares. But in my brain, I was like, get me through this. And I didn't mean keeping my arm. That meant just let me live. Because if
Yeah.
this had spread they told me if this spreads into my cavity, it's likely it's going to kill me. But if I get to live through this, like I said, keep the arm or not, whatever the outcome is, the outcome, I want to use this to reach others. And I will use this to reach others now. It's 5 years later, 5.5, and feel like I'm just starting to do that. It's in his timing, though.
Mhm.
I've been willing the whole time, but I didn't really put the work in. You know what I mean? Now I'm putting
Yeah.
the work in. If I see the doors opening, 3 months ago, let's do a podcast. Opportunities, other areas that that have been there, I just wasn't willing to see them. Now that I look back, but now I'm 100% all in.
Hey, I was laughing when you talk about the negotiations that we have with God because I think we can all
Oh,
relate. We can all relate to that, right? But if you look at where you're at, it's like you had no idea where that was going to go, and if they said this spread, then you're like, all right, shoot, just take off my arm, and then like just let me still be around, let me still be present. So it's like you do have to. I don't know. It's the way you had to rationalize that of like, obviously you don't want to lose your arm, but when it becomes the alternative, you could have died. So it's like, okay, then I guess just take my arm. But the one thing I think this may sound crazy to people. You could take your arm, you could take your leg, but you can't take your faith. And that really just affirmed all that in you is like you had your faith, you came out even stronger with your faith. And now you're using that as a catalyst for other people to be available and willing to help men and to help people along your not just men and women, right? Anybody that needs help, you're there for them. And I can truly say as someone that's gotten really close to you these last 3 years, how genuine and authentic it is. And it comes from a good place. It comes from a place of love. And it's unfortunately from a dark place during your time of life, but you use that to come out so authentic and genuine on the other side of it, where you could have been bitter, you could have been upset, you could have used this as a crutch or a negative definition for your life, but you didn't. You lean more into the authentic version of who you are. And I think that just really, it really speaks more to the integrity of who you are as a person and authentic and genuine and just caring. So I don't want to say I'm happy that you went through it because I think that you probably would have been as good of a person either way. But I'd be lying if I said this didn't really define who you are and who you continue to be because of what you went through.
you know what? I can say I'm not mad that I went through it. If this is what it takes, what it took to make me who I am today, to have this servant heart that I have today, because I don't think I would have had the servant heart that I have now had I not went through all of that. And I really believe that. If we can grasp the fact that God knows what he's doing, we may never understand it while we're here. And I fully believe that. There's children that are died. There are tragedies that happen every day as a result of free will. Started back with Adam and Eve, right? They're tragedies. But if we can try to see the good, and that's hard to grasp sometimes, I realize that, right? There are people saying, you are crazy. This person went through this. But if we're willing to believe that there is good, even if we don't understand it, man, life is just so much better.
Mhm.
That outlook, that mindset, it's so freeing.
Like you said, not easy, but freeing. Well, let's jump. So this was kind of obviously a major part of your life. So if we're gonna turn the page
Yeah.
to the next chapter, we're here. You are. You're living it out, man. So when did you really see yourself? When did you really see these opportunities to step into this servant leadership or the certain servant heart that you had or have? I'm sorry.
As I gained tools and learned tools, honestly, through the Dad Edge Alliance, that's when I really saw I saw other guys leading in ways, and I'm like, hey, I can do that.
Hmm.
Hey, my story, it might help some guys. And then I started attending the church I'm at 2 years ago. I saw opportunities to lead and serve there as well. So honestly, in the last few years is when I really saw, hey, this can be a reality.
Hmm.
And in these opportunities to serve and to lead are not for me to get recognition or anything like that. I don't care about that. But if we can make a difference, what better way to go out? If we can leave a little bit of a legacy by, like you talked about, the Maya Angelou quote, by how we make others feel, or maybe help them get through a struggle or learn
Hmm.
something about themselves that they didn't previously believe, it's all worth it. It's really all worth it.
Well, it's giving that purpose to your story, giving the purpose to the pain that you've gone through. And it's one of those things where we sat down that first conversation that we really had, the in-depth conversation on that bus ride to first form. You
Yeah.
told me, I mean, as long of a story as you could have told me, because it wasn't a very long bus ride. But when you
Right.
got done telling me all these points of your life, I'm like, dude, you got to share this. Like, this is something that can really help people move in different directions in their life based off where they're at. And it's just one of those things where you're just taking. It's that Ed Milet, Damon West podcast again, where it's the things that we're the least proud of in our life that oftentimes help us feel qualified to help the next person.
Yeah.
I'm sure you would have found different ways throughout your life to have your story, but I don't know if it would have been as impactful, obviously, without this. So as we go through this too, I mean, I have plenty of guys that have helped get me to where I'm at. And when you talk about your mentorship, were there people that really stood out for you that helped kind of guide you throughout this process, or someone that really stood out and helped shape you?
You know, not through this process, but there was one guy that stuck out as a servant leader, and it was a guy I used to go to church with. And this is back when we went to church when Alex was still young. He also coached our softball team. I didn't really know or wasn't around Bill through the cancer battle, but he made such an impact on me just in the way he and still serves others and never wanted any recognition. He was our softball coach. He he could have probably played better than most of the guys on the team. Still, he's a little bit older than me, but not a lot. But he was never about him. And what I learned from Bill is put others first. Don't look for the recognition because he would actually shy from recognition. He didn't want to be recognized. And from what I hear, he's still the same way today. I've run into him on occasion. Bill Agee, I'm just going to shout you out, Bill. He's never going to probably listen to this, but a lot of people that might listen to it know Bill. And this guy, he taught me what a servant leader is about. It didn't take root in the fact that what I learned until recently, I'd say the last few years, but now I look back and I'm like, wow, that guy right there, like Bill was and is the type of man, the type of legacy that I want to leave behind.
Yeah, I love that, man. I think oftentimes that people look at the immediate people around them, like we talked about in the top 5 episode, where you just think because of the proximity or something like that, that person has to be person you latch to. It's like you found somebody through your church or found somebody, or we found other people throughout life that aren't our immediate top 5, but we made them our top 5. And that's just a beautiful lesson. As you go through this, because that could have been something that maybe helped you earlier on in life too. If you would have had a different person in your top five, someone like Bill for you now, what would you say to men that might not have that, or men that feel stuck based off their story and how they define themselves going forward from it?
For men that feel like they're stuck in shame, I'd say you're never too far gone. We both, Paul, you and I have seen men in the alliance that have overcome some amazing obstacles, amazing hurdles, but they put the work in.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're not going to join something like the alliance or some coaching and find a magic pill. It's going to take a lot of work, likely. You got to be patient and you got to be willing to face rejection sometimes. You're going to come to whatever you're dealing with, you're going to come to deal with people that you might be trying to fix a relationship or something like that. And it's not always going to work. And sometimes relationships are still going to fail. But you're never too far gone. You can still control what you're going through. What as a person, right? You can't control if a marriage isn't working out or if your kid's doing something necessarily but the controllables, the things you can control, which is very little, you can turn it around.
Mhm.
I've seen it time and time again.
But yourself included.
Yeah.
Based off the stuff that you shared, man, I think it's really leaning into and understanding and believing that your past doesn't have to define you. It doesn't define your future. You do, based off the work that you do, the skills that you learn, but the things that you put in place. You can't just learn something and not apply it and expect it to get you somewhere that you're not deservingly of going. There's a quote
Right.
that goes around for fitness or something. It's like, don't be mad at the progress that you didn't get from the work that you didn't put in. The same goes
Yeah.
to parenting and marriage and stuff like that. So it's one of those things where it's like really believing that, have an open mind that you can change the future, the course of your life, the course of your family. You can do that, but it's those hard conversations a lot of times too. So where have you seen where men are struggling the most in the work that you've done?
Honestly, porn is huge. So many men struggle with porn, lust, sexual addictions, but porn, it runs rampant in men, not just men that you might see on a call, look around you at church. I'm just saying, everywhere you look, there are men struggling with pornography. They might be on the stage pastoring you. It's just a reality.
Hmm.
So that's a huge one. And as you know, Paul, I had started a call for men to support men with the same issue because I struggled with it like most men do for a period of time. I no longer can say I no longer struggle with it, but I felt that men needed an outlet. So porn's huge. Shame, just feeling bad about yourself all the time and not giving yourself grace and mercy.
Mm.
Just give yourself a little grace, but shame can be devastating. And then isolation, not leaning into anybody else. We talk about it, accountability partners, that type of thing. But like, I've got you, I've got a few other guys too that I know I can lean into at any time. Absolutely in a subject. You're not going to shame me. The other guys I'm talking about, they're not going to shame me. They're going to be there. They're going to support me. Now, they're not going to tell me what I want to hear necessarily, and I don't want that. But I don't have to be isolated.
What we just talked about, man, think about the vicious cycle that can have. Because if you are someone that's struggling with something, whether that be porn or alcohol or whatever it may be, that leads to shame. That leads to isolation. Then that leads back to that same behavior. It's just that vicious loop. And I think about too that I don't even know the numbers, man, but it's a multi-billion-dollar industry that guys
Oh,
are up against, right? So it's like it's in your face everywhere you go. Everything is so sexualized now. It's just like that's just the way things are. So it doesn't make the battle any easier to overcome when that's just constantly thrown at you and almost normalized too. I think that the things that we go through, there's the adolescent show on Netflix. I don't know if you ever watched that or not, but
I haven't watched that.
the I won't go too far in this, but the boy was so normalized into like how he thought men should treat women, and it was, and there's certain influencers. I'm not going to throw anything out there because I'm not quite sure if you can get sued or not get sued, but there's people
Right.
that there's people that promote the wrong lifestyle to young kids, and it's a matter of glorifying certain things that shouldn't be glorified. And I just think of how often that could be so dangerous and detrimental. It just builds that cycle that we talked about, man. It's shine a light. Whatever you have going on, man, you got to shine a light with it with people that you trust. And every time you have something that puts you in the darkness, get with your people and get that light and just shine it back on there, and just keep going.
You said it perfectly. And for me, having accountability brothers, having guys I can lean on, God's word, that's the solution for me.
Hmm.
Brotherhood, the word, and vulnerability, being able to be honest and open about what you're struggling with. You get that stuff in the light and it loses its power. You're honest and open about those struggles.
It reminds me too of the book Outwitting the Devil. It's kind of an eerie read, and it's a really eerie audiobook because it's got the voice illustration of the devil, right? If you want to have control over men and over societies and over communities, that's what you do. You isolate men, you get them into these kind of things with lust and all this stuff. And it's just, it really makes you think about things a little bit differently because it could be such an easy decision of like, oh, I'm just going to pick up my phone and scroll for a little bit. But then it turns into an ad, and then it turns into some more temptation or some more lust. And you just never know where it's going to go. So if you read that book, if you listen to that book, it kind of puts it in a different frame for you. But back to this, back to you. Talk about the servant leadership that you have, man. Talk about maybe some misconceptions or summarize of serving. What is it that is so appealing to you?
Pretty simple. I mean, serving is it's almost selfish feeling. It's not selfish because so many people think, well, I'm going to serve other people, then that's going to take away time for me. It is, but serving's not boring. It's so darn fulfilling. I mean, dying to self, it really does lead to true life. And I think it is that simple. And I didn't get it until I got it.
That's powerful. And it's one of those things that you
I
can't,
mean, it's like I can't even expand on that. I didn't
right?
get it till I got it. And now that's all I want. That's
Yeah.
all I want to do.
Yeah, it for you specifically, man. I think it aligns with so much of who you are and and how you live your life that it's just so natural for you too. So I think it's like you're trying to explain you didn't get it till you got it, but I'm willing to bet that your core values, your family values, your daily habits, the way that you serve, the way that you lead are all so connected right now that you just
Man,
feel 100% authentic throughout everything you do throughout the day.
that's accurate. Thanks to
And that's
Dr. Nick Sotelo, who got me really honed in on those core values and what it really means. Yeah, I would 100% say you're right.
that's a great feeling too. It's a great way to live, man. All right, so as we wrap this one back up, man, what's some final encouragement that you have for a listener that just listened to obviously not your full story of your life because we only have so much time, right? But heard something from your story, and maybe something really hit them and they were like, wow, I need some of that mindset, or how can I do something differently? So what's your encouragement to that listener that may have connected to this?
Do your best to finish well. For me, it's keep a servant's heart because that's actually what keeps me happy. It makes me happy to see other people succeed, other people shine, other people overcome poor self-worth. Learn to lean into other people and to get people in your circle that you would like to emulate. So, Paul, he's got a lot of qualities that I look up to and I want to emulate. 3 or 4 other guys in my circle that the same thing. They have the things that I want. I see myself the things that I want to be. Yeah. I don't know if I answered that well, Paul, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, man, I appreciate you the vulnerability you talked about earlier. That vulnerability is not always an easy thing to do, and it's not an easy thing when you put your life out there for a podcast and for the internet. Um, but it's definitely from a good place, and I think the heart that you have, man, it's there because it can help people, and obviously that's what it's all about. So I appreciate you jumping on here and sharing your story.
You're welcome. And you're next. But I appreciate the opportunity to get it out there. But maybe one person will be impacted by this. Maybe it's 20. But if it's one, if I get one person closer to Jesus, it's all worth it. But hopefully it's more.
Well said, man.
So,
You one last point. You said something earlier about I can't remember exactly how you said it, but it was about really being your authentic self. And I think that's one thing that people can take away from this is don't try to fit in. Don't try to follow the mold. Be your authentic self, whatever that looks like for you. And I'm gonna put you on the spot one last time because
yeah.
you talked about third, fourth, fifth grade, shy, timid, wanting approval, wanting to fit in. Drop some wisdom for that young Joey before he became a DJ. What would you go back in time and tell him?
Your current circumstances don't have to define you. There's so much more ahead of you, and if you're willing to explore other opportunities, if you're willing to believe in yourself, it's really all it's gonna take. I think it's really that easy, Paul. I didn't believe that at the time. I didn't know what I know, like I said before, but if I could just get my younger self to believe that there's so much more out there, I think that would have been enough. Make them believe it, not just say it, make them believe it.
And to build off what you said, to know that would have been enough, but to know that he was enough too.
Mm,
And you talk about the past mistakes, and I shared this in one of our recent ones too. Pastor Stephen Furtick talked about if you knew now if you knew then what you know now, you would have done things differently. But unfortunately, you
yeah,
can't go back and change it, right? So it's a matter of really speaking to that. I think we might have some younger listeners so they can really hear that. And you're right, man. The confidence to know that I am enough and I have a voice and I have a say and my story matters. And I think a lot
yeah.
of us, myself included, needed to hear that at a young age. So I appreciate that, man. That was a complete curveball that I wanted selfishly to hear you say because I knew you had it in you and I knew it would be
Yep.
good. So I appreciate it.
I said I really appreciate your opportunity to share today, whenever you're listening to this. It's tonight for Paul and I. What a blessing it is to just have the opportunity of technology to share. Like I shared on the Facebook that one day, we have listeners in Israel and Australia. We know the guys in Australia and Germany. I mean, like 15 different countries.
Mhm.
I don't know 11, 12 of those who's listening, but it's pretty cool.
It's very cool, man. And I think back to now third, fourth, fifth grade Joey that was afraid to say something. Look at where you're at now, man. It's just one of those things where if you could go back and tell that kid, hey, one day, man, you'll be telling this story on a podcast.
Don't call on me. Don't call on me to read or whatever. I remember those days. I was sweating, just sweating.
Yeah.
So,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. I think we can all can relate to that. Well, thank you again, man. I won't give the Midwest goodbye. I'll wrap it up for us, but otherwise, I'll keep talking for 20 more minutes, man. So
Yes, we will.
we truly appreciate, I say we as the listeners and myself, you sharing this story, man. So for the listeners, if this impacted you in any way at all, please share it with somebody. And encourage people. We encourage you to reach out to people. Encourage you to reach out to us as well. Leave a review. Let us know what's working, what's not working. We have some great feedback, and we really appreciate it. So if you could keep leaving reviews, keep giving us feedback, and we'll just keep rolling.
Excellent. Thanks, y'all. Good night.
See ya. Thanks for listening today. We don't take that for granted.
Your support matters. You're part of something much bigger, and we're thankful you're on this journey with us.
Stay strong, stay intentional, and know you're not walking this alone.
If this challenged you, please share the impact. Growth is better together.
We'll see you next time on Brotherhood Forged.